A quiet morning, resting gently upon a golden crust. A single, dark speck of ancient history. Beyond the fragile shell lies a forgotten realm, where pleasure and ruin once danced, perfectly intertwined. Millennia ago, beneath the searing Mesopotamian sun, the earth yielded a fragile green stem. Vast emerald fields swayed endlessly, hiding a profound and delicate power, waiting to be awakened. Delicate petals painted in white and lavender, whispering ancient secrets to the dawn, silent and pure. The ancient Sumerians knew its secret well, naming this sacred bloom the joy plant, a divine gift. Stripped of its vibrant and colorful crown, the swelling green pod stands utterly alone, holding pure magic. Within darkened stone temples, priests offered these emerald vessels upward, seeking solace and endless dreams. A curved blade of cold bronze draws dangerously close to the skin, ready to finally strike. One gentle and deliberate motion carves a shallow pathway into the flesh, releasing the hidden ancient spirit. A milky tear slowly emerges, weeping from the heart of the flower, bearing both relief and absolute oblivion. Thousands of weeping crowns stood still, bleeding out precious white nectar at dusk, changing the world forever. As the desert night falls, the innocent white tears harden into resin, sealing a dark and terrible fate. Gathered in small clay vessels, this profound essence began a weary journey, crossing merciless and endless golden sands. The harmless seed and the potent resin, resting side by side in silent contrast, light and profound darkness. Across the shimmering sands of time, this dark gift reached the pharaohs, silent and deeply revered. In the shadow of grand monuments, royal healers crushed the bitter resin, seeking its profound mercy. To the ancient Egyptian priests, this sacred dust was a profound key, unlocking the divine realm. They named it the spittle of gods, a cure for the crying child, a whispered blessing. Mixed with sweet golden honey, the bitter taste faded into deep slumber, peaceful and completely painless. Generations sought its gentle embrace, escaping the harsh and brutal mortal coil, if only for tonight. Yet beneath the quiet relief, a dark and insatiable hunger slowly awakened, demanding a heavier toll. From the fertile crescent valleys, the seeds journeyed across the warming earth, carried by endless winds, tiny and incredibly resilient travelers, waiting patiently for the perfect damp soil to rise up again. The mighty Greeks embraced it too, honoring the twin gods of sleep and of eternal death. Bound together in woven wreaths, the green pods adorned the marble altars, promising a quiet escape. Hippocrates praised its potent juices, while warning of its dark, hypnotic shadows, a delicate mortal balance. A medicine for the broken, yet a poison for the weak mind. A beautiful double edge. Empires rose and slowly crumbled, but the flower of joy remained untouched, waiting for greedy hands. The ancient world had tasted peace. Now the new world sought profit, and the nightmare began. Beyond the towering golden dunes, ancient pathways carried an invisible, silent shadow, spreading across vast continents, faded ink upon brittle parchment, charting the journey of a sleeping god across the merciless earth. Amidst the vibrant, chaotic bazaars, merchants traded silk for dark, heavy resin, a currency of dreams. Cold brass scales tipped delicately, measuring the weight of earthly sorrow, balanced on a sharp needle. Toward the majestic eastern empires, the seeds found welcoming and fertile soil beneath the dragon throne. Intricate porcelain jars glowing softly, guarding the specks of a foreign medicine, precious and highly valued. Wise physicians of the court brewed the petals into a soothing syrup to heal the suffering. Crackling embers dancing with shadows, heating the liquid with a quiet intensity, masking the hidden danger. Within the silent silk pavilions, nobles sought the pleasure of forbidden slumber, losing their mortal anchors. A masterfully carved jade pipe, catching moonlight as sweet smoke drifted away, sealing a dark pact. Across the vast churning oceans, wooden vessels sailed toward the golden east, driven by endless greed. A rusted iron needle spinning, pointing toward a collision of two worlds, written in the stars. Monumental storehouses of brick rose, hiding a mountain of poison, waiting patiently upon a sleeping empire. Heavy wooden chests bound tightly, echoing the sound of an approaching doom, inevitable and completely silent. The gentle smoke of medicine twisted slowly into a thick, suffocating fog, marking the brutal end. The East India Company transformed the flower into an industrial empire, an ocean of dark poison, ready to be exported. A heavy iron stamp marked the wooden crates of raw opium, sealing a bitter and undeniable fate for millions of souls. Endless fields in Bengal were forced to grow the joy plant, replacing food with highly profitable despair. Under the burning sun, local farmers scored the green pods with specialized sharp metal blades, watching their own survival slowly bleed into dark, sticky resin. Huge sorting factories processed the sticky black gold in massive halls, where the air grew incredibly heavy with intoxicating dark fumes. A worker shapes the dark paste into a perfectly round sphere, holding a concentrated orb of sorrow in bare, trembling hands. British clippers sailed incredibly fast across the vast, churning gray waters, racing to deliver the forbidden cargo to the eastern shores. A polished brass telescope extends slowly, reflecting the blinding morning sunlight, searching for the hidden coastal ports to smuggle the dream. The great Qing Dynasty heavily banned the trade of the poison, fighting a losing battle against greed and imperial Western power. A heavy silver coin dropped loudly upon a polished wooden table, buying a moment of deep oblivion at a terrible cost. Corrupt merchants unloaded the dark spheres secretly under the midnight moon, trading pure silver for profound addiction along the silent rivers. A thick ledger book recorded the immense and deeply hidden profits, writing a history of profound sorrow in dark black ink. The emperor stood within the forbidden city, sensing the approaching storm, as a foreign darkness slowly gathered beyond the grand walls. An elegant imperial decree burned slowly into a pile of ash, symbolizing the crumbling of ancient laws against a modern greed. The tension between the clashing empires finally reached a volatile breaking point, preparing the seas for brutal war and endless, bitter tears. The heavily guarded Canton port welcomed the foreign ships, bringing a silent and beautiful devastation, disguised as peaceful trade. Imperial silver flowed endlessly outward into foreign hands, leaving behind a heavy, dark residue of profound national sorrow. Within the hidden walls of the opulent dens, wealthy scholars chased an elusive floating dragon, losing their brilliant minds. A delicate glass oil lamp burned incredibly steady, melting the bitter poison into sweet vapor with a gentle hiss. The intoxicating mist crept slowly through the vibrant streets, capturing both the noble and poor in an unbreakable chain. A slender silver needle roasted the dark paste, bubbling fiercely above the tiny warm flame, whispering a deadly promise. Once mighty imperial guards dropped their rusted swords, surrendering to a completely invisible foreign enemy without shedding any blood. An intricately carved bamboo pipe rested gracefully, staining the polished wood with dark memories of a dying era. A righteous imperial commissioner arrived at the poisoned harbor, vowing to cleanse the deeply corrupted land with absolute iron will. Thick, dark ink swirled angrily upon the stone, preparing a desperate warning for a distant queen, demanding human decency. Thousands of wooden crates were forcefully ripped open, exposing the mountain of highly toxic greed to the glaring sun. The sticky brown spheres fell into boiling trenches, dissolving violently into thick white caustic foam, erasing the dark poison. A massive cleansing fire burned along the coast, sending an undeniable message across the vast ocean, declaring a moral war. An elegant royal seal stamped a brutal retaliation, answering the righteous plea with overwhelming military force and deafening cannon fire. The sweet and alluring fog of the parlor darkened instantly into the terrifying smoke of war, sealing the tragic fate. The iron monsters roared across the boiling dark ocean, shattering the fragile ancient peace with brutal, deafening thunder. A heavy cast iron cannonball screamed through the thick smoke, violently splintering the majestic wooden junk into 1,000 tragic pieces. Flaming arrows rained down upon the doomed coastal defenders, lighting up the black midnight sky with a terrifying golden glow. A torn silk banner fluttered weakly in the burning wind, marking the slow and bitter end of a proud, glorious era. Massive modern warships blockaded the vital southern river paths, choking the bleeding celestial empire with cold, merciless iron. A terrified soldier dropped his primitive glowing matchlock rifle, surrendering to a completely hopeless fight against an unstoppable metallic tide. Coastal fortresses crumbled under the relentless and heavy bombardment, turning magnificent ancient stone walls into piles of smoking ruin. Dark gunpowder spilled slowly across the wet wooden deck, mixing with the salty ocean tears of a fallen, broken nation. The riverways ran dark with the debris of shattered fleets, carrying the heavy cost of addiction toward the deep, unforgiving sea. A beautifully painted porcelain teacup shattered against the cold stone, echoing the sudden and violent collapse of an isolated, tranquil world. Foreign boots marched heavily upon the sacred cobblestone streets, claiming the ultimate bloody prize of a strictly forced treaty. A rusted bronze lock was violently broken by foreign hands, opening the gates of forbidden cities to an endless, greedy hunger. The once proud emperor wept in the silent dark shadows, mourning the profound and devastating loss of his great, bleeding kingdom. A single drop of crimson blood stained the golden throne, sealing the darkest and saddest chapter in the long imperial history. From the ashes of the burning junks and ruined forts, a new and terrible world order was aggressively forged in iron. The grand imperial gates closed heavily in deep sorrow, hiding a deeply broken and wounded empire from the victorious foreigners. A heavy golden pen signed the tragic, unequal treaty, giving away a magnificent and ancient island for an illusionary peace. Hong Kong harbor transformed rapidly under the colonial flags, becoming a massive and deeply profitable gateway for the deadly trade. A shiny British pound rested firmly upon the ledger, crushing the fragile and highly devalued copper of the local economy. Generations of brilliant scholars wasted away in dark corners, trading their vast and profound ancestral wisdom for a passing cloud. A fragile jade pendant cracked loudly upon the floor, symbolizing a completely shattered and lost generation, stripped of its dignity. Starving commoners lay completely motionless in the filthy alleys, breathing the thick and suffocating bitter smoke of pure, profound despair. A hollow gaze stared endlessly into the dark void, reflecting a deeply tragic and empty soul bound by the chains. The majestic summer palace burned fiercely in the night, turning magnificent and priceless cultural historical treasures into endless gray ash. A charred piece of wooden scroll crumbled very slowly, taking away 1,000 beautiful memories from the waking world. Massive millions of lives faded quietly into the dust, carrying a deeply painful and heavy burden across the vast empire. A cold iron lock trapped the suffering poor souls, locking away a deeply poisoned and helpless society without any real escape. The great Qing Dynasty slowly rotted from the inside, facing a completely dark and hopeless future under the western shadow. A single tear rolled slowly down a weathered cheek, dropping onto a cold and barren stone, marking the bitter end. The dark poppy fields continued to grow and spread, feeding a highly profitable and ruthless machine of global modern trade. The ancient joy plant adapted to a new modern world, hiding its dark and terrible secret in sterilized glass. A brilliant white pill dropped perfectly onto a metal tray, promising an instant and absolute relief from all suffering. Yet the shadow of the ancient dragon still quietly roamed, haunting the modern and bustling streets with invisible chains. A sharp steel needle reflected a cold and sterile light, piercing the fragile and human skin, delivering beautiful oblivion. Countless souls continue to walk the silent and lonely path, trading their bright and promising futures for hollow dreams. A tiny crystal of morphine dissolved in a clear drop, hiding a profound and devastating sorrow beneath the surface. From the ancient Fertile Crescent to the grand modern empires, the beautiful flower of deep joy never truly vanished. The resilient seeds slumber patiently within the cold, dark earth, waiting for a gentle and warm rain to awaken. A mesmerizing and profound journey through time and endless space, pulling the soul to a quiet morning, safe and warm. The dark shell hardens against the bright and golden sunlight, concealing a deeply tragic and bloody history in plain sight. Resting perfectly still upon the sweet and heavily baked crust, the tiny speck of pure darkness remains completely silent. No more empires crumbling or mighty warships burning in fire. Just a simple and highly familiar flavor on the table. The warm sunlight bathes the quiet and modern domestic kitchen, erasing the heavy and bitter ancient memories with sweet aromas. Mortals consume the ancient legacy without a single fearful thought, enjoying a perfectly harmless and gentle bite of epic history. Before tasting this tiny and deeply mysterious dark black seed, remember the sleeping and deeply fallen empires buried within it.